Meanwhile, 2.3 trillion in listed options are set to expire today, of which 1.1 trillion expired only minutes ago on the open. What are the dynamics at play here? Let's head right to the New York Stock Exchange, where our very own Jared Blikre, as I like to call it, from one professor to another. Professor Jared, take it away.
Well, let's take a look at what we got on deck here on the Wi-Fi Interactive. As you said, Diane, $2.3 trillion of options are expiring today, and some of those just expired on the open. That would be 1.1 trillion of index options. Those index options generally do settle in the AM on the open, so half of the battle is already over. The remaining $1.2 trillion of single stock ETFs and also index options that are expiring in the PM, that happens later today. That's typically after the close, actually on the last tick of the underlying issue that trades today. So interesting dynamics going on here. This is the largest July expiration ever. These volumes tend to increase every year. We've also seen the options market become a much bigger part of the equity universe than it used to be, especially one day to expiration options. They get a lot of love, and so some have argued that that makes the VIX less relevant than it used to be, but nevertheless, a lot of focus on that here today. Lots of volume expected already on the open, but also throughout the day into the close. Contrary to popular belief, we actually don't see increased volatility in the indexes today. It's generally only limited to some of the individual issues. Some of those issues get pinned around a certain stock price. So Apple around a big round number like $150 might get stuck there or pinned there. Others can have some wild fluctuations, but all in all, we actually tend to see less volatility on these big options expiration dates in the indices, guys.
The irony. Jared, the surge that we've seen in the Dow as of late, the consecutive days that we've seen higher, can we take anything away from that? Does it have any sort of predictability in terms of what it tells us what's going to happen next?
Yeah, you know, I think the Dow is the people's index. Let me take a look at the Wi-Fi Interactive today. First, I'll show you the Dow, and then I'll go over the transports as I did earlier in the week, just to show kind of Dow theory, how things are confirming each other. 8 days, 9 days, 10 days in a row. The streaks don't matter to me as much as the individual performance and then the relative outperformance or underperformance to other sectors, but clearly the Dow has been leading recently. Let me take a look at the 5-day total here, up 2% versus the NASDAQ, which has been under more pressure. Here's the NASDAQ 100. It's actually down for this week, and let me find the NASDAQ composite that has about 3,000 issues in it instead of 100. This is actually up a little bit, but there's also some things going on with respect to the NASDAQ rebalancing that could be affecting some of the mega cap names that took that big hit yesterday and throughout the week. So I think there's really just a lot going on here. By the way, that NASDAQ reshuffle that takes place, all that is going to be done on the close, slightly after the close, so that everything is ready for Monday to start trading with the new rebalance. But as Bespoke Investment Group has been noting, it's kind of a moot point here because the overconcentration issue pursuant to the NASDAQ's own rules kind of evaporated over the last 2 weeks, so that special condition that triggered this NASDAQ rebalance no longer even remains. You could say maybe the markets are a little bit self-correcting, but let's go back to the Wi-Fi Interactive. We have the NASDAQ 100 here over 5 days, and you can see indeed, more than not, the mega caps have been taking hits here, with Alphabet down 4%, Tesla down 6%, and Amazon down 3% there. Apple's still up, but you get the picture there. So there could be some of those dynamics at play. You asked me about the Dow, so let me take a look at the 5-day price action in the Dow. Is it any wonder why the Dow is leading right now? Even the mega caps in the Dow are in the positive. So it just kind of shows you the environment that we're in. And by the way, if you want to compare the Dow's movement to something that we've seen in the pandemic, I would point you to November of 2020 when we had the election decision, and we saw just about everything lift, but it was really the value and cyclical sectors that took off in anticipation of election dynamics and what the new administration were going to do at that time. So we've seen these bouts of outperformance before. Do they necessarily mean anything? I think it's just a healthy part of a market that's going up, that you sometimes have different leadership at the top.